Hello, in this tutorial we're going to be going through some of the steps you'll need to do to get everything up and running for the API material in the class. The first thing I'm going to do is recommend a book to you. It's Mining the Social Web, Data Mining, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, GitHub, and more by Matthew Russell. It's a great book on using these APIs, and one really nice thing is Mr. Russell and the publishers of this book have made all of the sample code available for free on the internet, whether you've purchased the book or not. But again, it's a great resource, and if you're using the code they're providing, it would be a really nice thing to do to purchase the book. But whether you do or not, we're going to be able to use some of the sample code. So there's a few things that we need to do to get started. We're going to install 3 different pieces of software and then also download the sample code from the GitHub repository that they have provided. So the first thing we're going to install is called Oracle VirtualBox. This is a virtual machine software. If you just Google for VirtualBox, it will be the first link that comes up. And like anything else, find a downloads link and download the version that is appropriate for your operating system. So we'll let that go while we're waiting on that. We'll find the second piece of software, which is called Vagrant. Again, just Google for that. And it's the first link. It's vagrantup.com. And then click on the download link. But do not download this latest version. Actually come over here to this link and click on old versions, and you want to download 1.7.1. If you download the latest version, it will not work. You have to get 1.7.1, select your operating system, and then let that download. And then finally, we're going to download OpenSSH. This is a secure shell program which you will need to manage certain aspects of the virtual machine that will be running inside of Oracle VirtualBox. And what you're going to want to Google for this is OpenSSH MLS. OpenSSH is a Linux tool, and there are versions for Windows that have not been maintained very well, and there's a company called, or an organization, something called MLS that has a pretty up-to-date version. So go to this, Google it, or go to mls-software.com, and yeah, right here you can see the link for the Windows binary. If you're using Linux or Mac OS, you probably already have something like this native in your operating system. And then the last thing we're going to download is the sample code, from the GitHub repository. And I think if we just search for mining the social web GitHub, yeah, that first link will get you to it. Oh, actually, make sure you're going to the one for the second edition. You see, if you accidentally get to the wrong one, it will say, don't use this repository. Click this link for Mining the Social Web second edition. And if you're familiar with Git, you can set up synchronization. What we're going to do for now is just download the zip file, which is going to get us all of the sample code as it exists right now, but it won't automatically update, which is fine for the purpose of this class. So we're going to pause this for just a moment while everything finishes downloading, and then we'll come back. Alright, great. So all of that has finished downloading, so we'll start installing. We'll start with Oracle VirtualBox. So we just double click on the exe for the installation, and go through the wizard, accepting the defaults for everything. It's going to make a few changes to your network configuration, but nothing that's a big deal. Although your network connectivity will drop out momentarily while this is installing. This will take just a minute, so We'll pause the video here until it finishes. If you receive any prompts like this about installing device software, or if it says it needs administrative rights, just give it whatever it wants. Alright, great. So you'll finally get this screen when the installation is complete. We can just click Finish. And then proceed to install Vagrant next. We can close VirtualBox for now. So again, just double click on the installation file and click Run. Again, just kind of accept the defaults here. And we'll pause the video while this runs. Okay, so once that's done, you'll get this Finish screen. Just click the Finish button. And Vagrant is going to want to restart your computer, so go ahead and click on Yes. Of course, that's going to kill my video recording, so we will pick back up momentarily. Alright, great. So now we have VirtualBox and Vagrant installed. We're going to install the third piece of software now, the OpenSSH. This is just my downloads folder. I brought it over here where you can see it. This is where everything went to by default. So double click on the installation file. And this time we're actually going to do something a little bit different. We're not going to take all the defaults. If you happen to get this message, just click yes. So accept the license agreement, and we're going to uncheck server. You don't actually need the OpenSSH server, you only need client and start menu shortcut to be checked. So click next. I think we'll just accept the defaults for everything else. This one only takes a minute, and then click finish. Okay, so we have the three pieces of necessary software installed. And so now we're going to deal with the sample code from the website. So this is the zip file that we downloaded from GitHub. Just double click on that and we can kind of drag all of this stuff over into a folder. So I've created a folder on the root of my C drive called MIS510, but just kind of put this wherever. But you'll need to know where this is because we have to do some things from the command line. Alright, so once you have that copied over there, you can just kind of close this zip file. You can actually close this window as well. You don't need the graphical part anymore. And open up a command prompt. You can get this command prompt window by just clicking the start button and in the little box typing CMD, as in short for command, CMD, and hitting OK, and that will pop up this window. And then we're going to navigate to the directory that we've just created. In my case, it's C:\MIS510. In order to start the virtual machine, we're going to issue a command with Vagrant. If you type Vagrant, then space up, like this, and hit enter. This is actually going to go out to the internet and download the virtual machine file. This is going to take about 10 to 15 minutes if you have a fast internet connection, if you're on campus. If you're at home, it might take longer than that. So we're going to pause the video here while this downloads and come back in just a minute. Okay, so eventually after 5 or 10 minutes, you'll get this message, and this is a problem with the code that's available, but fortunately we know how to fix it. It will say chef run process exited unsuccessfully, exit code 1. So what we have to do to fix this is type vagrant space SSH, and momentarily it will ask for a private key. Oh, actually, so this did not ask for a private key because I've had this running on my machine before, but if it does ask for a private key, just hit enter without typing anything, and when it asks for a password, just type vagrant, V-A-G-R-A-N-T. Now note when you type the password, it won't show up on the screen. You just type it and hit enter. Now when you do get to this prompt that says vagrant at precise 64, type sudo space ln space -s space /usr/bin/python, and the space bar, and a /bin/python, and this command is in the slides. Okay, once you do that, just type exit, and it'll say your connection is closed. Now what we have to do is restart this virtual machine. So to do that, we type vagrant space halt, and that'll take just a moment. Alright, and so now your VM is shut down. We need to start it back up. So we type vagrant space up and hit enter. Alright, great. So you'll finally get this message, and you'll see it says run vagrant provision to force provisioning. And this is going to be our last step before we can start doing some actual coding. Alright, so type vagrant provision and hit enter. And then this takes about 20 or 30 minutes to run. So we'll pause the video here, but when this gets done, we should have a running test environment to do our code. Okay, now once that finishes, everything should be up and running. So if you will open up a web browser to localhost :8888 and hit enter. You should see this IPython notebook screen come up, and this is where all the sample code is, and there are interactive boxes here where you can actually run the code, and it goes out and does everything for you. So this is a great learning environment. In the next video tutorials, we'll actually be connecting to Twitter and LinkedIn and all the different services and running some of the code. So this web page that you're connecting to is actually the Oracle VirtualBox computer that's running on your machine. So all of the time that that's running, that is consuming some of the resources, some of the CPU and memory that's in your computer. So whenever you're done working with this, in order to turn that off, you just type vagrant halt, and that will shut down the virtual machine and free up those resources. Now, when you do that, if you try to go to this website, well, whenever it shuts down, you will get an error because the machine is shut down, right? So to start it back up, you just type vagrant up, and it will take just a few moments. And then once it's up, when you go to your web browser and go to localhost :8888, you'll see the IPython notebook.